Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to RGTV. My name is Franklin Katunda. Of course, you are on Think About It. So tonight we have a great host who came all the way from Boston, actually from Providence, Rhode Island, so in New England, and he's visiting us right here in Dallas, Texas. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce Yves Mukanya. Ladies and gentlemen, you will discover a lot of things that he's going to talk about. It's actually mental health. Everything is mental health, and he's a therapist. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Would you introduce yourself to this audience that is actually anxious to know what you have?
Okay. Well, my name is Yves Mukanya, and I'm originally from the Republic of Congo. I work mostly, my career path was mostly into the scientific, working in pharmaceuticals. As right now, I work for Thermo Fisher as a quality assurance supervisor. And I've also worked for Moderna for about 2 years, working on the COVID-19 vaccine for 2 years. Yes.
Wow.
And before that, I worked about 8 years with Sanofi Genzyme on various diseases and things like that. And in the beginning of my career, I worked for Bethesda and Medical Center, and we were.
And that's in Boston.
I was in Boston, Massachusetts. Yes. Okay. And we were mostly focused on, the research was focused on discovering a particular gene that predisposed African American to diabetes and obesity. And we were also, that research got published in the journal Diabetes as well. Oh, so, cool. And about 2 years ago, I got my degree in mental health counseling, and I've also been working as a counselor, therapist in the town of Providence.
So 8 years, I learned that 8 years you spent in a pharmaceutical company, working in a lab, doing some research in lab tests that actually were accompanying researches. What type of researches have you done?
No, well, I was mostly focused on microbiology, right? And it was for microbiology, just making sure that whatever medicine that we were producing from manufacturing, we were testing it and making sure that it was up to par with what the FDA was requiring. So because those are products that are going directly into the bloodstream, we had to make sure that it was super clean and there was no bacteria, fungi, and all nasty stuff that found their way into the system. And that might find its way into a human body. So we had to make sure that we are covering our bases and that the product that we were making or we're putting out there for people to consume were actually the safest and the cleanest.
And so 2 years ago, you've been actually working with a firm where you are doing therapy. It looks like you just did it after you got your master's degree from Johnson Wales University?
Yes. After I graduated from Johnson & Wales, I did my internship with a company that actually liked the way I was doing my job and also how I was relating to my client, and also they heard a lot of good feedback about what I was doing. So they decided to keep me on board. So I stayed with them for this amount of time. However, about a week ago, they closed their door, but I found another place where I could still keep doing my job as a therapist and moving forward. Yeah.
So now you actually, off of that, you are doing your own therapist?
No, I'm not doing my own therapist. I'm not doing my own therapy. I'm still working with people, but on the side, I wanted to explore a different side of it. So I'm actually about to launch my consulting business, where I'm going to work on will be more coaching, public speaking, and things. So I'm still working on things, having paperwork filed and things. But as we're moving forward, I'll definitely update people. But that's something that I'm working on, and that's something that I've been very passionate about.
Ladies and gentlemen, Yves Mukanya out of Providence, Rhode Island, visiting us here in our studio here in Euless, Texas. We are on RGTV. We'll be talking about teens, adults, couples who are going through counseling. And counseling effectively works when a therapist, a certified therapist, is out there at hands and try to work and help people to put their thoughts together or bring them back to realities they probably lost. Tonight, we will talk also about stress. We'll talk about depression, trauma, and low self-esteem. There's so many. The list is very long, and perhaps we won't be able to finish all that tonight. But I'm going to just open the very first subject we're going to discuss with him about divorce. How do you help people who are pre-divorce or who are going through a divorce process?
Well, the technique that I follow, especially for couple and marriage, any type of relationship, is basically, it's the Gutman's theory. And the Gutman's theory tells, I usually said that the reason why I'm using it is because the Gutman's theory is backed by research. Right. So, and in the Gutman's, they say that there's a few things that they look for that tells them, and that tells them is if a couple is going to stay with together or not. And they're able to predict with at least between 96 or 98% accuracy if a couple is going to divorce or not. So there's 4 factors that they look at. The first one is criticism. The second one is defensiveness. The third one is stonewalling. Right. So stonewalling, a lot of people don't understand it. It's just that the fact that when someone come and talk to you, right, and you feel too much attack all the time, you don't even want to engage your partner anymore. So you put up a barrier, and you turn your attention to either your phone or
to the kids.
Or to the kids, but usually not the kids, but either the phone or the TV. All right. Either the phone or the TV. And then you spend all your time just focusing on that. Even though the other person is talking to you, but you're not engaging.
You are there.
You are there, but you are not there. And that literally create a barrier because the person wants to engage with you, but you're creating that kind of sort of barrier so that the person doesn't engage with you the way that they want.
Ladies and gentlemen, that I know a lot of people out there can relate to what we're talking about. This is just the third element of the techniques that they use to actually pinpoint what's going on with the couple. What's the fourth one?
So this criticism, defensiveness, stonewalling.
So the fourth one was?
Contempt.
Contempt,
Contempt. So basically, it's when someone has lost complete respect for you. So they are talking to you like you were a child, and anything that you say or do is not that important, or they are belittling you. So you can see that by when you say something, the person is just snickering at you, right, or looking down at you as if what you say doesn't even have any kind of importance or anything to add.
Like let me just give an example, like a spouse saying, "Yeah, you will think,"
No, it's like, okay, like, oh yeah, like I was thinking about going to the office and doing this, and the person look at you like you're gonna do anything.
Right? Like you gotta do anything.
Like it's really not important.
I'm sure somebody's related to what we're just talking about.
So that's the snickering that you have. It usually show itself by the snickering. And you see that in a lot of couples. So when I have couple coming to me for therapy, and they come to me and I watch their interaction first, because the first thing I have to do is observing. And when I see those 4 factors, I can see where they are, and if I see that they are very strong and it's already established into the couple, that tells me that they are on the verge of divorcing.
And what do you do now to help them? Now I'm saying help them in terms of, okay, if there's still something to save, and how do you also help them if there's nothing to save and they already made up their mind? How do you do that?
Well, therapy, when you say like the best, usually The best time to come to therapy is when everything is good. Because the therapist will be able to talk to you, give you some tools in case something happened. And in that stage, you are more willing and open to take suggestion from someone else, because you want to put or work on your relationship and making sure that whatever bliss that you have in your relationship at that stage, you want to maintain that. So sometimes you come and you are at the point where you're already tired. All right. The job as a therapist is not always to put people together. My job is to ask you what you guys want. All right. And from what it is that you want, I can help you get to where you need to be. Some people come and they decide that they talk and I listen. And usually my spiel is, I'm not here to tell you what to do, because you've grown up, you can decide what it is that you want. But I want you to go home after this conversation, have a conversation with your partner.
With your partner?
And decide what it is that you really want. And some people come back to me and they're like, oh, you know what? We want to separate. And how do we do that in a healthy kind of way? And there's a way to do that. Some people want to give another chance to their marriage. And you have to gauge now the willingness of each partner, because that's going to dictate how much they are willing to put into the work in order for the marriage to work. And the people that actually work for me, or the people that have counsel and help and it works, are the people that, even though they are at the level where they want to separate, and the last couple that I've seen, that I have been seeing for the past 4 or 5 months, already moved out. Like they separated.
They already made a decision. So
they already made a decision.
Because they want you to help them get through a safer landing.
No, they wanted to save their marriage. Even though they were separated, they wanted to save their marriage. So we've been working together for, I'll say, the past couple months. And our last session, they were talking about moving back together. So they already have a plan of moving back in. They already knew what date the lease of the husband was done, so that he can move back into the house. And they were moving, they were doing that. So we went through therapy, and as we were going through the process, they were willing to put in the work. And as they were willing to put in the work, they have the exercise that I gave them. They were having the conversation, the deeper conversation that they were not having before. And they started having those kind of deeper conversation. So that gave them a better understanding of who they were dealing with, or who the partner was. And they were able to now talk about what was really bothering them and how to apply it, dealing with the emotions behind certain angers and things like that. And they were now at our last conversation, they already had the plan of moving back in and moving back together.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's amazing what we are hearing here. It's a whole process, and I know a few things that he actually explained tonight you are related to. I can say I'm related to some of them. Stonewalling is the one that actually amazed me a lot, because we do that sometimes unconsciously, where we sit there on the phone and somebody's talking to you and you just right there just scrolling down something. And I don't know if it's to send a message to your partner or to just ignore completely what that partner is saying because of various reasons. Keep tuned to this episode, because the next episode will talk about other things that we won't be able to cover tonight. I wanted also to talk about trauma. Is there any way you can explain us, for example, the trauma from childhood? How do you deal with that?
Well, trauma from childhood usually shows itself in the grown up, right? So as you grow up, your attitude, the way you do things, the way you approach life is determined by what happened to you in the past. So if you were a child that was traumatized as you were a kid, you develop coping mechanisms. So basically, those trauma change the way you look at life, change the way you perceive certain situation, which means that your personality in itself has changed. And that's also, we can't really blame the child for that, because that's the role of the brain. The brain is not there to make you succeed or make you have millions. The brain's first job was to protect you. So once you in a position where you are traumatized, the brain look at it and say, okay, that's a trauma, that's going to affect them. So in order for that trauma not to always come back and put you in a state of anxiety and making problems, the brain just changed the way you look at that thing, just change the perception that you have. And sometimes those coping mechanisms that you develop are faulty, because as a child, you don't know what's good and what's going to be bad for your future. All right. So when the brain changes that perception, create that coping mechanism that influence also your personality, but you still have the feelings attached to that situation. And as you grow up,
can you give us an example of that trauma? I mean, among teenage, childhood, past things. Just one of them.
Let's just look at the case of someone who has grown up without his father at home.
Without a father, okay. That's very common.
It's a traumatic event for a child. Not to have even the parent or the father around. And you see that.
Or a male figure.
Yeah, a male figure. But if you look at the male population, in prison right now, the majority have grown up without a father. All right. So that also creates a certain anger into the child. All right, because sometimes the child, because they haven't done things, they haven't seen a father, they haven't seen this, and the father was pretty much absent. The child may start thinking that it was his fault. All right, and start blaming himself for this absence. And that creates some feelings of anger. Sometimes the emotions, they usually comes back as very strong emotion. And that's why you see that children growing up and the behavior started changing at school. Because at some point you have all that energy that you have amassed, but at some point it's going to explode, because if you haven't dealt with it, it's bound to come out. And usually when it comes out, it comes out the wrong way.
I see.
So it's always good to deal with those emotions as they happen or as they come, so that when it comes, you have to a point where you're a grown person, mature person, you know how to deal with this emotion, because they're always going to come back. So you have to learn how to deal with them in a healthy kind of way, so that when they show up in your life, you know how to turn it around so that it doesn't affect you negatively.
Now that's a case of a past childhood trauma. Now let's say if they bring you a young man who's maybe 17 and he's actually experiencing as we go, how do you deal with that?
Experiencing
some type of trauma.
Some type of trauma.
You can see some signs.
Well, the person might or might know where that comes from. Like, I'm just looking at the feelings, like how he feels about certain things. And I approach him, okay, so what's going on here? Like, I have a lot of anger. But anger is really not the reason, right? There's something underneath that anger. Anger is just a representation of something that you haven't dealt with. Either a loss or something stronger than that. Right? So now unpacking where that anger comes from. Okay, you have anger. So, but where is underneath that anger?
I see.
All right. Is it lack of self-esteem? Because lack of self-esteem can make you feel like you're inferior to your friends or to other people. And now you're 17,
trying
18,
to make a point.
Exactly. Either trying to make a point or trying to start a relationship with someone. And just because, and you get turned down, you start blaming yourself.
Gotcha.
And it comes back to you. That feeling of self-esteem become even stronger. But how do you manifest that? Because you can't attack the person who say no to you. So you have that anger start bubbling out.
Okay.
And sometimes people don't know, but it's related to that. So you have to bring the client, and I have to bring my client to understand that the anger is just a manifestation of some deeper feeling. But now it's okay, let's go back to that feeling. All right. Where does it start? How does it come? Where does it come from? And now how to deal with it. I'm giving you the tool now to cope with it, not in an unhealthy kind of way and keeping everything inside, because you can't keep everything inside. Okay. It's gonna come out.
It's gonna come out. Yeah.
But how to deal with it as they come so that you can deal with them in a healthy kind of way. So it's dealing with those feelings, dealing with those in a healthy way. That is basically the basic of the work of therapy that I do.
Got you. Ladies and gentlemen, it might sound like a kind of a boring conversation or something that we're talking and people like, yeah, maybe I never heard that before. Maybe it's not going to happen to me. Ladies and gentlemen, those are things that happen to us every day. Divorce, postpartum depression, past behavior, you know, that actually born out of trauma. We see people coming from the military and they are sick because of what they saw. We saw people, you know, who actually grew up without parents, or maybe one of the parents available, another one absent, and they develop what Yves is just explaining here. I wanted to touch on the postpartum, when a woman carried a baby for 9 months and then had now the moment where they have to actually finally let the baby out and then deal with the baby after the maternity. How do you deal with a situation like that? First of all, what do you see as a therapist to help a person like that running a depression after maternity?
I mean, postpartum depression is very common, especially, as you say, in women that just gave birth, right? But we have to understand that carrying a child is a very it's very taxing to the body of the mother. First of all, because the baby in itself, when it starts growing into the mom's body, the body of the mother also see the baby as a foreign object. So sometimes it might attack the baby and kill them. So it's up to the body of the mom now to produce certain hormones and enzymes and proteins to protect the child. And that's also is taxing. The way that she eats, she has to spread basically her food, her food intake between her and the child.
And the child.
And the child takes.
Forget about if she's selfish and she don't want to share it.
No, it doesn't matter if she doesn't want to, right? But it's a lot of hormonal change that the body of the mother go through, right? And sometimes you can see that translate into anger towards her husband.
Some of the nutrients are going to go to the baby and then some to her.
Exactly.
Forget about when she also has her own deficiency where she had to kind of...
So it's the hormone. It's a hormonal change that happened. And that's a constant change all the time that she has to go through as she's carrying that baby.
For 9 months.
For 9 months. So now when the baby comes out, right? She's still going through, the body's still going through that hormonal thing. But where a lot of moms get distressed is they're so tired. And their hormone are out of whack, out of places. And they have to take care of that baby physically. And some women, because they are under that stage, cannot relate to the child. And that creates a lot of stress, because they're like, I carried that child for 9 months.
For 9 months.
So how can I not have feelings or relate to that child for the moment? But they don't understand that it's a hormonal thing, right? And you have to teach them, you have to let them know that it's a normal stage. It happens, and it happens, and those are the things that are up.
And just to butter in what you said, 9 months carrying a baby, and then all of a sudden I'm not carrying a baby. do they feel a sense of abandonment or something?
No, it's not a sense of abandonment. Maybe the sense of abandonment can come from the child, because some women don't even.
What about
touch.
the mother?
The mother is more, I do believe that it's more the hormonal kind of thing, right?
Okay.
And then now that they have the baby out there, they have to take care of them. So it's to master that energy, because she's already taxed. Her body is already taxed for carrying that child for all this time.
Gotcha.
So now the demand of the child, because the child need constant care, need constant being seen all the time. And if she doesn't have help, it's easy for someone like that who's already tired, who's already taxed, and whose body is going to hormonal change. It hasn't stopped yet.
Yeah.
And as the baby is born, the body is still going through those changes.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. So the body has
kind of
to
going on
readjust.
the stage of preparing you to nurture the kid and have enough.
So it's a lot of things
love
that happen.
And caring.
Exactly. So there's a lot of things that happen in a woman's body as she's going through all those stages. So it's basically approaching a woman like that with understanding, because yes, you have to understand. I'm a man, and I do understand that I cannot fully grasp what she's going through.
Yeah.
Right? I cannot, but I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to see what she sees, to feel what she feels, and then as we establish that kind of relationship, we can start going back and I start giving her the tools and things like that, and explain to her how according to my approach, because therapy, you have different approach that you can use. According to the approach that I have, how to explain to her how depression works, and what are the things that you can do to change the perception.
Ladies and gentlemen, depression exists during pregnancy, after the baby is already around, the woman is vulnerable, husbands needs to be around, and I can't even stress that enough for folks who are watching us. There's a lot of folks out there who are not doing their job as husbands, and they just are kind of a little bit selfish, looking at themselves, look at their desires and things that they want to accomplish. Even if the baby just came out 2 months after, maternity, they're trying actually really to have 100% attention from their wife. It's not going to exist. It's not going to be good. It's not healthy. I believe the mother is caring about the baby. The father, the baby's father, is supposed to be caring also about the mother to kind of balance things up. This is even before we get to the therapist. I'm just putting that out there for folks watching us, because I know a lot of people really don't care, especially guys. So when we have a man like that, acting like that, I mean, for me, I would just smack him on the face. But what are you going to do as a therapist? What do you do?
Well, you also have to look at it from a different perspective, right? And I do understand that there are people that are men out there that are not very proactive on those kind of things. However, you also have to understand that one of the biggest another cause of divorce, especially in young couple, is the birth of the first baby.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Right? Yeah.
When
comes a big toll on you.
Why? Because you have these two people. They established a relationship, they established a routine, and they had attention just for both of them towards each other. Yeah. Right? So now the baby comes. As a mother, of course, her attention has to go to her child, because that's her prerogative. All right? So she's going to, all the attention that she used to put on the man, she stopped putting it on the child.
Absolutely.
So now the man is in a position where, you know what, I used to have that attention. I used to have that attention.
Now it's the baby. Yeah.
Now it's the baby.
Up.
Yes. So
that's what I was talking about earlier.
There's a feeling that's born out of that.
Yeah.
The bad thing is people don't deal with those feelings. And because you don't deal with them, you let them fester. As you let them fester, that's gonna impact your how you act towards the mother, even how you act towards the baby.
Towards the baby,
right?
okay.
So because the approach that I use is I have a little bit of CBT, and CBT, the way it explains things is your thoughts, your feelings, and your action are all related. So
thoughts,
feelings, and actions
are all related.
All related. So they create a loop, a feedback loop on each other.
Right.
So your thoughts can influence your action by creating a strong feeling. If you feel strongly about certain things, your actions are going to be affected by it. So now you have a father who feels alone, but because he's not addressing those feelings, he's not saying really what it is that he wants to say, and because the mother's attention is not on him but on the child, those feelings start to fester. All right, so it's a very difficult time for both.
Yeah.
The mom going through the hormonal change, switching her attention to the couple to mommy mode, and that attention, that switch, influence also the father who also need that attention, but also you have to explain to him that it's a normal cycle. But one thing that saves usually couples is the couples that have discussions about this, that are completely open to have this type of discussion, this type of conversation, especially, okay, I feel this way, I see this, and then what can we do to make sure that we have our need met or the child's met and things. So couple that have a constant conversation or relationship, open relationship where they talk about their feelings, are the people that navigate successfully that specific stage.
So there is a communication that is a key in this whole thing. Ladies and gentlemen, workplace issues where you are not able to actually provide yourself as an asset to the company due to your own problems that you are going through, or workplace versus marriage, conflicts, religion versus therapy, or things like kids versus parents, you know, that behavioral relationship between parents and kids. Those are kind of things that we're going to talk about in the next episode of Think About It. We have our guest in the house. Yves Mukanya came from Rhode Island, from Providence, Rhode Island. He's here for a few days just to talk to us about the mental health therapy. So we'll come back for the next episode where he will go in details about what needs to be done in those areas that I just mentioned. I mean, I'm not going to attack the churches or people of faith, but I'm just going to talk about the role between the religion and what therapy is, because it's two distinct things, and we need to admit it and go with it, because one is science, one is spirituality. And so how do we deal with that? It will come on the next episode. But Yves is here in front of us. I wanted to ask you a question. If people wanted to contact you, I know you're on the social media. Which one is that again?
If you want to reach out to me, it's easily I have my Instagram account, and usually it's your _neighborhood _therapist, and you can easily reach me out there. Send me a message. I usually respond to people that send me messages and stuff like that. So I usually post a few things, and that's how I get in touch with the people that are around me.
So, ladies and gentlemen, your _neighborhood, right? _therapist. He's on Instagram. You can check out everything that he posts out there and talk about. We're going to come back on the second episode pretty soon on your show, Think About It. We're going to come back next time on our episode of Think About It, talking about mental health with Yves Mukanya from Providence, Rhode Island. Stay tuned with us, and we'll come back to you.